Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Rise from the Ashes, of Burnout to Brilliance. This is season 5, and my next guest is a literal rock star. That's where she started her career. Her name is Michele Blood, and she's an awesome human being, transformational leader, and she's inspiring to create change around billions of people in the world. Michele, welcome to Rise from the Ashes. It is a privilege and an honor to have you here. I know your schedule is extremely busy, but it's, as I said, a brilliant time to have you this Christmas Eve, because that's when we're filming it. Please introduce yourself to the world and tell people who you are.
Thank you, Baz, as we say in Australia. G'day, Bazza. Yes, I love this time of the year. It's beautiful. I've got all the lights along my footpath that's glowing at night. And even though I don't have any neighbors, I enjoy them because I live in quite solitude, which is awesome. But yeah, I was in a rock band in Australia for many years. I was singing professionally since the age of 5 on TV. And what happened to me was, it was interesting because I don't think people really understand, Baz, what it's like to be in a rock band. I was the lead singer, one of the main songwriters, the manager of the band. And to get gigs to start with, and then to get a record contract. And you have to, in Australia back in the 80s, you had to have a huge audience that came to see you before a record company would even look at you. It was really quite fascinating. And not these days where you can self-publish and put songs on iTunes yourself. It was really challenging back then. And we gigged at one stage for 7 years non-stop and supported some pretty big bands like the Pretenders, Georgia Satellites that came out from America. And until we ended up getting our own support bands because we were getting bigger and bigger. But then after all those years of just getting all the videos out and everything, I had what would look like to some people the worst thing that could ever happen to a young Australian female singer who'd worked so hard all her life to get to where she was. It was a car accident, and it was actually a truck. I was a passenger with the truck driver. We were driving from Brisbane to Sydney in Australia, so that's a long trek, right? And that back in the day, we didn't have proper highways. It was just a normal 2-lane road. Pretty rough back then, the roads in Australia. And we finally, after about 14 hours, whatever it was, got to Sydney, but he fell asleep at the wheel. And we had a horrific accident. He was fine, which is amazing. But as the passenger, because he went into a pole, a lot of the musical equipment, and we got big huge speakers and everything crushed me. I was crushed, and my body was completely destroyed and smashed bones everywhere. Probably never, if I was lucky to get through the night, I'm pretty sure I'd never walk again and all this sort of thing. But I was in that hospital for months and months and months, many long operations. I won't go into all the gory details because I don't want someone to throw up their breakfast, lunch, or dinner whenever you're watching this. And so just to say that was the beginning, Baz, of a new trajectory in my life that awoke me to so many different things. And you would think that would be the worst thing that could happen, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that's the beginning of a pretty amazing journey.
So you were very young, and thank you for sharing that, Michele. I mean, you were very young doing this and coming into that world. What was it like for you coming from childhood, bit of stardom, into all this attention? Because that must have been really draining in itself. For someone so young going, oh my God, I've got all this attention. What was that transition like for you?
No, that never affected me because I worked so hard and I slogged it out with some pretty bad bands at times. And so I was used to having beer cans thrown at me because the Aussie crowds are pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I guess it was a slow progress. It wasn't an overnight thing. And when I was a kid, the school kids I even got dunny dunked once because I was on TV. The Aussie kids are pretty mean.
Yeah.
So I was very quiet around people, but it wasn't that sort of attention because I had to work so hard managing the band, making sure we had the right road crew, the rehearsals, the sound quality was great. big double four-way speakers. Everything was perfect. I never, ever had time to think about myself or anything except the band, what we're going to do, new songs. It was, when you're in the process of working so hard and traveling so much, there'd be articles and stuff, but we couldn't even watch our own videos on TV. My grandfather once woke up in the middle of the night and put on MTV, and he saw my video, and one of the videos, I go like this and it looks like I'm about to fall into a barbed wire fence. And he yelled out, "Watch out, Michele." He called my mum and he said, "I can't believe it. It looked like she was really going to," and it's a video, and I know it's a rock video, but because we didn't have televisions, we were put in for years and years. We used to call them cockroach palaces, where horrible motel rooms that the gigs would give you. They weren't very good. They were horrible. So we would definitely, it took years before we started getting decent places to stay. So it's a rough life. And I couldn't speak during the day because I had to work so hard to sing and dance and do all the stuff, crazy stuff I did on stage. So I had to save my voice. And you will find that nearly any successful rock band or singer who doesn't blow out gigs, I'm not talking about Axl Rose or something like that. They blew out gigs all the time. You don't speak during the day. Hardly anybody does. Chrissy Hines didn't speak during the day either because you've got to save your voice. So you leave a very isolated life in that respect when you're in a rock band. So that's the answer to that one. No one's ever asked me that before, Baz.
Yeah, I can relate to that actually, because I was DJing and hosting in a completely different setup. I was never a rock star. I wasn't the famous stardom you ever. But speaking in the daytime to tourists, to people, was a drain for me. So I can relate to the environment, because working, you just worked, and when you were speaking, you were getting paid to speak. You didn't want to, from my point of view, anyway, if you didn't want to be interacting with people that were wasting time and talking to you about how many shots they could drink or whatever it was the conversation was. It's interesting because you had such a demanding lifestyle. What was the emotional drain for you?
It wasn't any emotional drain. I was just driven and a happy person and extremely disciplined, making sure the band always showed, because we were on the road all the time. So we didn't have time, and we didn't go out to the crowds and speak to the crowds or anything. We would just get to the gig, do the rehearsals, do the gig and wait till everyone had left and then come out. We'd always come out and help the road crew, even though we paid them to do it, because I just found it kept the boys humble.
Yeah. I like about you that shows compassion for other people. A lot of people who have that level of authority they lose that in the translation because they become very egoic. What in the industry is very demanding, as you said, you're always on the go. What was the most passionate part of your job? I know it was serving and enjoying what you were doing, but on a deeper level, what was the passionate part? What really fueled it?
When we had written a really good song, and I would always know if a song was really good because I get what I used to call God bumps. I still call it God bumps, actually. And I would just know. And then when you'd see the audience singing along to the songs you've written, it's euphoric. It's hard to explain. It's not ego or anything like that. It's just when you've worked so hard to get to where you are, nonstop, just horrible little gigs, and get it to that point, it just feels very fulfilling and joyful. And it used to make me cry when I go backstage because I'd say, they're all singing our song. It was just so miraculous to me, because after all those years of slogging it out, to have that happen was amazing.
When you look back now, I mean, you've got a huge amount of success, influence, and when I say success, it isn't about self-success, it's about impact on other people. And that's what I love about you, because when I say that, you just light up. Your whole body just comes alive, and I love that. What would you tell your youngest version of yourself, your 10-year-old self, looking back now? Would you do anything differently if you had a chance to go back and say, look, don't do this instead?
I think the only thing would be, I had a couple of guitarist. Before I started creating my own bands, I would be the singer for someone else who created the band. One of the creations was, we'll find a singer, and it was me. And I had a couple of the guitarists that were just mean, horrible guys who would just want to go through listening back to the, I don't think you sang that note as well as you could. They were just mean. I had one guitarist who would lock me in my motel room, wouldn't let me out at night. So if I ever did get a chance to go out, I couldn't. So I actually had to escape. I had to get the guys in the band to help me get a bus ticket to Sydney. I was right up in Cairns to get away from this guy. I didn't date anyone I worked with, but I would just tell myself, don't join those bands. Get out of them straight away. If there are any mean guys, just leave straight away. I wouldn't go through that again. But the thing is, when you go through something like that, it makes you stronger. Because I was all that long bus drive back to Sydney, I just said, I'm going to start my own band. I'm never going to be in someone else's band ever again. I'm going to get the coolest guys and girls to work with that are nice people, that aren't big drinkers or egotistical. And I did. And it took me a few years to get everyone I wanted, but I got the guys were just the most amazing people to work with, and kind and funny. Oh, it's like we all loved A Life Called Brian and all those sort of things. We all had our own jokes and stuff. So that's why I think, for sure, actually, now that you're making me think back on this, Bo, that's why I end up working so hard to get in, to start my own band and get the best players and the nicest people I could work with. Even our road crew, they were just amazing. And they'd work with the biggest names, but we paid out a lot of extra money to get the road crew. We all would have bugger all money ourselves to get the best road crew, because your lighting and your sound is everything within a band. So anyway, but good questions. Wow. Unique ones too.
I love that, because what you're doing is setting the stage from the lowest points and then learning the lessons. I think it's so important, because many people just think it's about just doing it and then it all works out. But while you're explaining it, it's very true. And anybody who's got any level of success, there's always this story behind the scenes that no one knows about, of the stress. That, like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why does this happen? But like you said, then you raised your intent, you raised your standard, and then set the intention for, this is what I want, because of the experiences that you knew you didn't want, right? You get locked in a motel, getting nasty people that you didn't gel with. But that's all a part of the journey. Burnout and failure and leaderships in any walk of life is about them lessons. And you're just a gleaming example of somebody who applied the lessons, but not just went and did it, went a big fuck you to everybody that excelled in it to that next level, which is incredible. Many people just think, I'll stop here. Somebody once told me, and I can't remember who it was, 15 years is the number that you see an overnight success. And it's 15 years in the making that you see somebody at a level where you think, I could admire that person. But what you don't see, and you've explained just then, is the heartache, the late nights, the unknowns, the uncertainty, the variables that go into it. As a performer that is trying to make a name for themselves, extremely good at what they do, what did you find that was your sweet spot? I know it was singing, but what about the singing was come alive?
Well, apparently I've been singing since I was 2. Mum said I could sing all the songs on the radio before I could even speak properly. And I knew that it made people happy. I was a pretty quiet kid, apparently, but they would put me on the kitchen table and I would sing to the grandparents, and it would make people happy. And the nuns, I went to a beautiful Catholic school, and the nuns put me in all the school of Stedvets, and that made them happy, because then the school would win from me singing. And it's just something that I love to do. And I would challenge myself in the studios as well to sing the highest notes I could possibly get to and do the best runs, and then have to do that and do it live exactly the same to make it sound like the record. And I used to love to challenge myself to be able to do that, because when I could get to a note and then go to an even higher note, it's euphoric, because you don't feel like it's you doing it, even though it is you doing it. But it takes such practice and such discipline. And so when you do really do a good job, you do a gig that was great and all the band was great and everything was in absolute harmony, it just is very fulfilling, because you know what it's like. I say to people, if you could run your business like a successful rock band where everything's got to be in harmony and you've got to show up on time, you've got to be disciplined, and you only work with the people that you're in harmony with, you'll always be successful in your life. It's a good analogy, I think, actually. And I've used that ever since I started my actual own bands. It was like, that's the way to go. You don't act like the boss, but you're disciplined with everybody. You don't say to the guys, that's okay, you broke your strings. Where's your spare strings? There's so many things you have to, when you're managing a band, you got to make sure everyone's got spare strings. The drummer's always got to make sure they've got, it's so much going on. But as far as singing, that's the sweet spot, is when you know you've done a really good job and everything's been in harmony.
I love that word that you just said there, harmony, because I think it's often overlooked in not just business, but life as well. And what a lot of people don't realize is your business is an extension of who you are. And if things aren't aligning, there's something wrong, not just externally, but internally. So it's a good thing to look at and remind the viewers of, and the listeners of today. Look internally for what's really going on, not just externally, because there's always a balance. And I want to speak about the balance in the next part of this, because you had a profound awakening, is an understatement from what I can gather. For the viewers, if you're tired of just surviving and you're wanting to thrive, take a notepad and pen out and going to this podcast and this episode and just write down the top 5 tips that you can get off Michele, because what she's laying out here is her pathway to a life that she never needed a holiday from, a life that she lives and thrives in. And that's happiness. That's fulfillment. It doesn't come from a materialistic world of money, fame, success, but they can be a component of it. Michele Blood is an example of, and to us all, of success isn't external, it's internal. Before we close this section of the episode, how was some of your perceived failures, how did you strengthen them in the future so they didn't repeat themselves?
I wouldn't repeat them. I didn't. I never ever thought anything I did was a failure, ever.
Mhm.
I just knew I wasn't experienced enough yet to be able to do that. And I just needed more experience. And you just keep doing it. It's like anything. You don't fail. You're just learning as you go. Oh, I didn't do that, but I'll know next time to do it. So I don't even look at a word like failure, because I think it's going to make people feel like a failure. Oh, what a knucklehead. I buggered that up. I'll do better next time. Basically, that's my attitude.
But that's gold there, because it's reframing it. It's not staying in the negativity of, oh, I did this, self-blame, self-pity, self-worth. You've then translated it into, it's not a failure, it's just an experience, and now we know not to do it. And that, I think, is a very poignant way to look at things, because a lot of people don't. We're conditioned as a society to look into, oh, that's the negative and that's where I'm going to stay. You didn't. And that takes a lot of courage. And also, courage is built from resilience. Vice versa, they go hand in hand. In the next part of this, I want to look into your awakening and that journey from the rock star, rock band, into, oh my God, there's so much more. As you and I both know,
Understatement.
yeah. You and I both know there is so much more, and a lot of it is there to be experienced. Before we go, is there any tips you would like to share with the audience about understanding themselves from a lesser point of view than they actually are?
The thing is, you're not an island. You're not alone. You're never alone. You think you are, but you're not. We're all so very connected with this higher power that is extraordinary, that is animating every cell of your being. You're not just a human being. You are a powerful entity called the infinite. That is what you are one with. You may not feel it at the moment, but you can. Change can happen. And some people say you can have change overnight. Yes, that is true. But you have to be patient with yourself and learn in increments. Just take small bites and learn that way, because then before you know it, you've eaten the whole elephant.
I love that analogy. Michele, thank you very much. I will see you in the second episode. And viewers, people listening now, please subscribe, share the episode, because you will, I guarantee you, change someone's life. Look forward to the next episode very shortly. This is part 2, and how Michele decided to go deeper within herself to really explore her true nature. See you on the second episode. Share it, and I'll see you very shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is Royce from the Ashes, Burnout to Brilliance. I am now in the second part of the interview with Michele Blood. From the first part, you heard about how she rose to stardom from a child and the trials and tribulations and lessons that she had to learn in order to build a successful rock band and tour the world. She met a lot of people. She made a lot of people smile, and that still lights her up today. But what I want to dive into now is my favorite part of this. Because, Michele, you had something happen to you. It was so profound, it rocked you to your core, didn't it? And it wasn't the accident. It was something so much greater than that. And people know this as commonly as a spiritual awakening. But I think it's so much more than. Can you just go into that and tell the audience what that was like for you?
First of all, I'll just say that after, I won't go into the car accident and everything that happened, but I was touring the world mainly with Bob Proctor, but also with 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗡, Wayne Dove, quite a few other people doing gigs all over the world. And I was now stationed in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, because I loved that monkeys were free. And I ran Bob's business from there too. And we did so many great events. And I would still be singing, but I would have like dancers and keyboard player and stuff on the stage. And Bob had never done anything like that before. And we would tour around Asia, mainly America too. Did quite a few gigs with him in America, and share my story. But it was interesting. I was talking about my heart glow. I said to Bob, I was crying, and he said, "Oh, you've gone into the bliss again, have you?" And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "What are you feeling?" And I said, I don't care about any of this anymore. And I love working with you and helping you with your stuff. And I had records that were pretty well known too in Asia and different countries. And because I still was doing the pop stuff, but all positive now, all positive. Anyway, positive lyrics. And I said, I feel like I've got this heart glow. Like I feel such intense bliss all the time. And I want to find out what that is. I really believe in God. I love God, but I want to know God. And he said, you've got to find an enlightened teacher. And I said, what exactly is that? And he said, well, you've read Yogananda's book, right? And I said, yeah. Autobiography of a Yogi. And he said, he talks about enlightenment, and he traveled the world looking for enlightenment and very rarely came across it, except for his teacher and a couple of other people. He said, because it's very rare. And Bob said, I had an enlightened teacher for 3.5 years in Canada, and he left the body. because no one ever dies. You just
Well,
leave the body and go into another one. Usually that's what happens. But anyways, I started hearing about different Zen masters in Japan or someone in India, and I would travel to these countries looking for an enlightened teacher. I thought I was looking for an enlightened teacher. I wasn't really sure what it was that I was looking for. But when I got to America and I started going to different gigs and things, not gigs, events where they'd say this guy's from India or so I was absolutely certain that what I needed was an Asian man that was bald or gray-haired with a beard. I had no idea that it was going to be a woman who was 10 years younger than me, who was a Westerner, who I would end at 14 years of searching, and I found this enlightened teacher through my friend Johnny Indara, because his teacher had been enlightened and left the body. And he heard out of all the thousands of students that his teacher had, that who was also American, that one of the students, John said, one of the students that used to come, he said, I know her and I've been told that she's become enlightened. So we're all going to go and see her. And he said, I know that you can really feel if someone's awakened or not. And it wasn't that I could feel it. I could just feel that they loved God. That was like how I would feel about the person because I loved God so much. If I loved that person, I would feel that they were more God conscious. You know what I mean, Baz?
yes.
Yeah.
So when that journey, you in Malaysia came back, Bob Proctor, God rest his soul, an amazing guy. That experience must have been so enlightening itself to be in his presence, serving the people in the way you did. When you found this person after 14 years, that was just the start of something else. It
Yes.
wasn't, oh, I found it, that's it. Can you see it? Because people think, oh, I'm found an enlightened teacher, that's it, I'm done. And that's not the case, is it?
No.
Because there is
No.
people say, I've had a dark night of the soul, I've had spiritual awakenings to certain levels. But you went to the extreme and just went, fuck that, this is what I'm doing. What was that journey like?
I went off the grid. I went off all social media, stopped doing events,
Mm-hmm.
and just studied with this beautiful woman. Kundalini is her name. She's still alive. And she still teaches, but only occasionally with her older students. She doesn't like do new things. She remains very anonymous. She chooses to do that, but she loves what I'm doing now and how I'm doing it. But so I studied, and it is, if someone says it's easy to become awakened or it's easy to meditate, they're trying to sell you something. It is not easy. It is extremely challenging to stop thought and all the different things that I'd learned over the years, because I meditated, but I had no idea what it was like to meditate when someone is actually enlightened. The energy that you feel coming from them, your head starts tingling, you water up. Oh, it's incredible. And so the teacher then helps you to meditate because you've got this beautiful diamond and it's being clouded with all the old experiences and emotions. And so you can't feel your higher self. You can't feel your intuition. And I would do everything it took. She didn't have an ashram. We all had our own homes and we would travel to different countries and do all these different enthusiastic things, but it was so challenging. And I never ever thought I could become enlightened. It wasn't about that for me. I just never thought, how could someone like me, rock singer from Australia, I don't know. I just loved God so much and I loved to meditate. And so I did all the things that she taught me to do. And she was so irreverent and so funny and just joyful, amazing teacher. And so I would have a bucket of ice water, Baz. And during my meditation, if I found I was going sleepy, or I would stick my head in a bucket of ice water. I would do everything it took to eventually I started getting a flash of light, like a flash, and then more flashes of light. And I would meditate. I would not stop meditating at night unless I got that flash. And when you have that flash, what is happening is that means all thought has actually stopped in that moment. And every time you have that flash of light, you are going into higher states of consciousness. There's less of you every time. And after a few years, I started going through what I call a stargate. And that is the most incredible experience. So there's lots of Kundalini rushes while you're doing all of this. It takes years.
Mhm.
And eventually, after years of having all these amazing experiences, I had a full-blown, I disappeared into the light. I was gone. I'd already been through so many different dimensions through going through the Stargate, going and meeting and light. And I won't go into all that, but it's incredible. There's so much more to this world. And
Mhm.
then when that happened, I was gone. The old whoever she was gone, and I was awake. Like the Buddha said, he said, "Who are you now?" He said, "I'm awake." But you have to go through tremendous experience. You need the enlightened teacher to assist you transmitting that light, but you have to experiment as well yourself. I would do every type of thing I could to stop thought. I've just finished writing a book all about it called Stop Thought, which is all about the experiences I had and what you can do, because a lot of people just do one particular chakra meditation, or they'll learn Kriya yoga breathing. I did everything. Even though she didn't teach everything, I studied everything, and gazing and just reading every book I could from enlightened teachers who'd left the body. Swami Muktananda's book, Play of Consciousness, Yogananda's book again and again, Saint Teresa of Avila, her interior castle, really getting to understand it, reading Sanskrit, going through the aphorisms in Sanskrit and in English, doing everything I could, because every time I went into higher states of consciousness before my full awakening, I was devastated by the acknowledgement of what it is that has created us. And it is devastating in a positive way to realize that we all think we're these little ants and we've got all this power and it's not real. This is just a dream. Scientists are finding out now. Last year, they were like, "Oh my God, we've just found out that we're all just holograms and black holes aren't really the black holes." And I'm thinking, oh, all those years, 𝗟𝗢𝗟𝗡 teaching that thousands of years ago, Babaji teaching it for years, the Buddha 2,500 years ago. And scientists finally catching up, which I find thrilling, because then more and more people can have the realization that you can awaken. It's not easy, but the beautiful thing about meditation practice, even if someone isn't as full on as I was, like a full on, my master, I'm not calling her a master, but God, I've got to find that. I'm like a dog waiting at the door for my master to come home and to be home again, where there's no fear. You don't have any thoughts of the past or the future. You plan things, but you're in a continuous moment. There is no time. Before my full enlightenment, I had you get these different siddha powers. And one of them for me was time stopped. It literally stopped. So I never again had the stress of, I've got so much to do and blah, blah, blah. That's not in your consciousness anymore. You just calmly do everything. And like Yogananda said, he said, "You don't understand what it's like. I could work in a pineapple factory 24/7 and still have this hum, this bliss going through me nonstop, this hum." He said, "But because I'm awakened, I'm here to teach and to spread that light." He said, "I'm not going to waste it in a pineapple factory." He said, "But I could be in a pineapple factory and still feel this hum, this bliss, this nonstop exquisiteness that humbles you so much, and yet you know you're one with it." It's hard to explain, but your ego it's incredibly hard to kill off the ego. But once that's done and you're not thinking of self anymore, and you're free. You don't care about what other people think. You just love people. You can see people. You can see who they are and know their journey straight away, and know it's just downloaded into you how to pray for them. I love to pray for people and what to do to assist. If you have a feeling that something's going on in the world that's not quite right, you just, because of Google, I just go, I know something's not right. I Google and I can see what I was feeling was because of something happening in the world somewhere. And then you can pray for it and have results, because thoughts are so powerful once your diamond is clear. But anyway.
No, I love this conversation. It feels like home is
Yes.
the word for that. I've experienced some things in my time, and I don't ever say that I'm awakened. I'm aware of things, but I'm never awakened. I'm always like a steward in learning. So I always envelop knowledge, information, conversations, situations. But what you're describing here is something that I know very well. I meditate 2 or 3 times a day, and I try and stay centered. Shit goes wrong, shit happens. But the more, as you said earlier, the more you do it, the more centered you stay. You don't react to the situation. You go, okay, that's going on, fine. And you're very centered. What was the most, and if you're willing to share this, what was the most enlightening experience while you were on that journey with your mentor?
I think in Egypt, in Cairo,
Mhm.
we went there and we're in this beautiful hotel right next to the pyramids. And she would have a meeting room each night. And during the day, we would go and check out the pyramids and do all that sort of thing. And we went up to one of the pyramids, the big one, and I was with her, behind her as she's going up the stairs. And they allowed us to go into the very top chamber, which they don't always allow you to do. And she whispered to me, this is where they came to become enlightened. It's not where they come to die. She said, people don't understand about the pyramids. And I just had this flash of light in the room. And she went, oh, you saw that too, did you? And I couldn't believe it. That was my first real, with her, just acknowledgement of, wow, this was a sacred place that we're in. And they've got the place for people to lie down. And there was like a light, she said there was like a diamond thing so the light could come in. And I don't know, that was my first, wow, what just happened? And there was about 3 more things that happened to me when we were in Egypt.
Mhm.
That was a wow, blew me away. And then after that, I was just like, how can all this light and this energy be coming from this I'm a tiny little person. She is too. Funny. Anyway, and it was incomprehensible to me that this is not really a human being anymore. And the love and the energy. I'll give you an example of the energy of it. We circumambulate around the big pyramid and we all walked behind her. And if anyone's been to Egypt, you'll know that every salesman is coming up to every tourist as you're walking around the pyramid. They, sell you this, and they really hassle you. And I got hassled so much, and I was trying to give them the money and just, yeah, go, just take the money. Then more would come up. And then someone tapped my shoulder and said, look at Kundalini. Not one of them are coming up to her. So she's there on her own, walking in front. And not one person went near her because she had the power through her thought to just
Mhm.
not
So,
have them annoy her as she's meditating, as we're walking around the big pyramid. Just so many things. And then after that, because that was my first trip with her. So then after that, it was just nonstop. Every time I saw her, just extraordinary experiences, just amazing, amazing. I was so blessed that she said I could become her student. And to this day, every day of my life, I thank her with all of my heart.
there is some people that we meet in the world that make our days 1,000 times better. Michele, you're one of them people because you brighten up the world around it wherever you go. I know that because I'm stood here in front of you and I've been privileged to spend time with you and actually share some of your wisdom and knowledge and with me. If you could change something for the world, for the future, for the betterment of humanity, the level up of consciousness, what would that be?
I can't change anything. but God can.
Hmm.
The infinite can, that rules my life. And I would love for people to understand that we don't live in a world, we live in an experience. There's 8 billion different experiences happening. Everyone's got their own world that they are creating. And some people say, oh, the world is awakening, and they don't understand, but it's just that when you're in a different state of consciousness, you start attracting into your life people at a similar frequency. And so you start thinking, oh, the world's awakening. But if you really look at the world, there is still such low evolution, so many things going on. It's like Moses when he realized that he had to make 10 commandments. Thou shalt not kill. No kidding. Thou shalt not drink and drive. No kidding. I mean, we still need policing. That's how crazy stupid the world still is. But this is happening because each person has created their own karma, their own experiences for their eventual awakening. I have had thousands of lifetimes. It took me a long time to get out of low evolution. The world is creating such great things. And I think because of technology, we think we're all awakening and that we're all brilliant. But that's just technology. We created a wheel once. Wow. I think if you can stop judging what's going on in the world and just focus on your own inner life and what you can do every day to make someone else's life happy. Every single day, what can you do to make someone else's life happy? You can do it, and that will change you. And if you're going to do anything, just make other people happy. Yogi was a great enlightened teacher, and I got to do an interview with him. He was with Babaji in the Himalayas for 16 years. Great enlightened being. And my friend Lawrence was one of his students. And so I got to do an interview with him. This is even before I met Kundalini. And people were asking him questions. We did this call together. And every answer was like, how can I change this? How can I do that? My parents, blah, blah, blah. Make them happy. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about what they're thinking of you. Just make them happy. That was his answer to everything. Make other people happy and the world will change.
I love that. I love this conversation, and I wish I could continue, but I know you've got other places to be and you've got other people to see. Before we close out today, I know you've got a couple of things and gifts you want to give to people. Can you just explain what they are? The links are below. So anybody in the transcript or anybody reading this goes to the blogs, go to the links. They're all going to be there. Please connect with Michele. Please have a conversation, because this conversation has changed my world. It could possibly change your world. Michele, where do you want to send people? What gifts you want to give them today? And it's Christmas, so why not?
Yeah, it's Christmas. MicheleBlood.com, MicheleBlood. It's not a punk name. It's an Irish name. Blame my daddy. MicheleBlood.com/rise above. And just before I tell them what they're going to get, I'm really enthusiastic about reading your new book when it's out, Rise from the Ashes, Baz. So that's what you're doing is extraordinary. And I want to thank you for all that you're doing as well. And in MicheleBlood.com/rise above, you'll receive the Magic of Affirmation Power audiobook. That is just one of the gifts you'll get, but it's got the affirmation songs, lots of affirmations at the end, and just the basic story of what I went through and meditation. Very simple. Keep it simple and spiritual. And you'll also get my 6-week mystical course, which is a video each week that you watch online that will give you direct instruction on how to put your life together mystically, practically, wealth-wise, from decluttering your house to how to do that to decluttering your mind every week for 6 weeks. If you follow all the instructions, and they're very simple because I'm a simple person, your life will become much, much easier. And I think there's a couple of other gifts too that Trevor's popped in there. I'm not sure what they are, but they're all free.
Everything will be underneath in the description. Michele, I'm beyond grateful for your time, your energy, and your love for everything you do for people. It is extraordinary. For my listeners, I'm grateful for you for being a part of this please share the message and change someone's life. Michele, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, mate. Thank you,
No,
Baz.
thank you. You're awesome. My listeners, if you're listening to this in January or February when it's released, because I don't ever know, it's not my thing to know right now. Whatever you do, please share the message. Go back, take some notes, and learn from the people who have been here. Learn from the people who have experienced life and applied it to their own consciousness and risen above the noise and risen from the ashes, from the burnout to the brilliance. Thank you very much for listening. Michele, a pleasure, absolute pleasure and a joy to have you.
Thank you, Baz. Happy holidays.
From myself, download, enjoy, and I'll see you on the next episode of Rise from the Ashes, Burnout to Brilliance. Please take care, be safe, and be well. And most importantly, be blessed.
Before you go, please, if you want to receive some amazing high vibrational success meditation, tons and tons of free products, go to micheleblood.com/links.